Hello, Stephen Talbot here, and today I'm going to show you an automation that I just got done doing, and I think it's pretty darn cool. And I want to give you the backstory of why I had to do this. So first, let me just go over this. So listing site conundrum. So like many people, at first you might start off with one platform or listing your vacation rental on a single platform. And then you might expand to another platform, and then eventually you get to the point where you want your own website because you want to drive traffic and bookings directly through your website because you make more money that way, and you get to control the experience, and you get the customer's email or the guest's email address, and you get to actually speak to them, and you can screen them, and you can do anything that you want to do that way. And going through a listing site kind of stops all that. Of course, there are pluses, or people wouldn't do it. So you get more exposure, especially if you're trying to build a brand. You can increase your revenue. You can increase your occupancy rate. You can increase your, once the guests come in-house or they arrive, you can build rapport and potentially build your repeat business. But with that comes a lot of negatives. You lose control of the process. You lose control of what the process looks like. What step comes before what step and what step comes after. You lose the ability to freely communicate with your guests, as you probably know. HomeAway, VRBO, actually all of the booking sites completely hide the guest's email address, and the only email address that you see is like a fake made-up email address that's just temporary. You lose the ability to pre-screen guests. You lose the ability to mitigate credit card fraud. And you can't do your dues. You can't do the due diligence for being a responsible business owner, neighbor, community member, whatever. Because none of us want sex offenders, drug traffickers, thieves, loud, crazy parties in our properties. We don't want people that are going to cause damage and all that stuff. So, first of all, I've been in the vacation rental industry since I guess 2015, so 16, 17, not that long. But I did my own by myself. Oh, I'm so sorry. I did my own by myself for a while, and now I'm partnered with somebody, and we're growing this thing pretty rapidly. So, one property, two properties, three properties. Now there's 7, and we've got 7 more coming on this before the end of the year. And then we're looking at acquiring 2 complete apartment buildings in different cities. So we're looking to go to different cities. And just in the short time since I started working on this new project, and we started using MyVR, which is the software that we use, who uses Stripe as their payment processor, we've had 5 chargebacks, which equated to $7,500 in lost revenue. We haven't lost our merchant account, but every time it happens, they send an email that basically says, chargebacks can lead to, if your ratio of bookings to chargebacks gets too high, then, we can ban you or disable your account or whatever. And actually, Stripe is the only processor that MyVR uses, so we kind of be screwed if that were to happen. $8,500 in damages. We had 2 parties. They happened. One of them was on Halloween night. The other one was the very next day. My genius idea was to lower the price for last minute bookings, and because once the sun comes up, you can't make money on that room anymore or on that home anymore. So I lowered the price to $100 for about a week, and the first 2 people that stayed, guess what? They had a party. One of them, they literally turned the entire home. They moved all the furniture out and they turned it into a nightclub. They were charging cover at the door. They had wristbands on. There was a full bar, a DJ, like just club lights everywhere. It was insane. I know a person that went and broke it up along with my friend. I took some backup with me because it was crazy. There was I would say 200 people there. It was nuts. Now I've done this before with great success. When I did this last time, I did condos. We had 2-bedroom condos right in the downtown area. Now we're doing houses. So these are like the specific house I'm talking about. It's about 3,500 square feet. It's really close to downtown Nashville. But the point is that it's a big house. You know, people can't have that much of a, or that big of a party in a small condo. So I guess that's why I never had the issue. And besides that, I had lots of business travelers during the week who would book just single nights because they were close to town. These are a little bit, you know, maybe a mile or 3/4 of a mile away from downtown. So I learned very quickly to start, you know, making people book at least, you know, 24 hours or 48 hours in advance, which I really hate that though, because I like to give deals. I like to stay fully booked, but obviously you have to balance everything. You have to balance it just like you do with everything else. Obviously it's not worth getting those extra $100, you know, 7 times a month or whatever it is, if you're going to be stuck with chargebacks and parties and cleanup and damages and stuff like that. So, first, what did I do? So first I went to Stripe after these chargebacks and I was like, look, what can we do? What can we do to make this better? Because when you're with a channel, when you're fully integrated with these various channels like HomeAway and VRBO and Booking.com and Airbnb and all of that, you have no control over the credit card verification. Now Airbnb, it just so happens that if you get a guest who disputes the charge on their credit card and they book through Airbnb, then you still get paid. We still get paid. Airbnb doesn't. So as we drive more traffic to our website, these issues are going to become bigger and bigger. So I had to figure out a way to do it. You know, since we're Instant Book, it's required to have Instant Book turned on to be integrated fully with any of these channels. Since basically we don't have any way to check for fraud because the transaction comes through. And once it comes through, you know, most of the agreements that we signed with these other channels say, you know, any booking that comes through, we have to accept it. So I was trying to figure out what to do. And this, I can't remember if this is my first video, I think. I don't remember. Anyway, the point of my channel is to show you how I sort of automate things and streamline processes and stuff like that, and come up with solutions and things that I just want to share. So this one, I'm actually going to take you all the way through what I did to fully automate this. So at first, once we had all these chargebacks, you know, we're talking about a lot of money. So at first, we were literally going, well, not at first. This still is at first. This has just transpired over the past week or so. But, you know, so far, maybe 5 or 6 reservations have come through, and it is not fun to manually reach out to the guest, ask them, you know, to send you copies of their driver's license and their credit card, and then wait for them to turn it, you know, wait for them to email it to you, and then follow up with them if they don't, and all of that. So I was like, there's got to be a better way. I had reached out to Stripe, as I mentioned before. I also reached out to MyVR, and nobody really had any earth-shattering, you know, solution. So everybody kept saying, well, you need to know who your customer is, you know. You need to know who your customer is. You need to, you know, screen them. But you can't screen them. So if these various booking portals, Booking.com and all these other guys, are not going to screen their guests, then it falls on us. Especially if they're booking through our website, obviously it falls on us. So what I did is come up with it's almost fully automated. I mean, I do have to interject. I do have to, I'll show you. So at some point I do have to look at something and either say yes or no. But I'm actually working on automating that as well. And I have like 3 different conference calls coming up with different service providers to see if this is something that we can automate as well. All right. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I'm going to open what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using Zapier, or some people call it Zapier, but that's my favorite tool in the whole world. And another favorite tool of mine is called Integromat, but I actually will not be using that today. They're both similar in what they do, but they do it in very different ways. So I'm going to pull up. So I've already created this, and then I'm just going to kind of walk you through it step by step and show you exactly what I did and how I did this. So this is my Zapier dashboard, and I'll do another video where I just go over specifically Zapier. But as you can see, I have different folders and I have all these different automations in here. one of the automations that I set up, from the very beginning, was to log every reservation that I get and to update that reservation in a spreadsheet and to update it whenever the status of it changes, like from confirmed to canceled or whatever. So first, and that's sort of the first piece of the puzzle. So as you can see right here, I have an automation that takes a new reservation from MyVR and then adds it into a Google Sheet. So I open that one first. Oh, I need chapstick. All right. So MyVR, actually, you know what? I need to back up really quick. Let me show you Zapier's. Actually, I can't do it right there. I got to do it in a incognito window so it doesn't log me in. Let me show you Zapier. So basically, you can take any app on the web and integrate it with another one by saying if you've ever heard of if this then that, sort of the same thing, except Zapier is for business and versus if is more for consumer. So if a new reservation comes in, then do this. If the reservation is canceled, then do that, or whatever. You can do all kinds of things. So Zapier has thousands of different apps that you can integrate with. I mean, like tons and tons and tons and tons of them. See if you click on apps here. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. There's so many. So one of those apps, if you were looking to integrate MyVR, if you type in MyVR, no such luck. So I actually built my own integration that if you guys are interested in it, I'll be happy to invite you to it. There's a couple of things that it doesn't do or that I couldn't figure out or there's some calculations I couldn't really figure out how to do. And so it turns out that MyVR actually has a beta Zapier integration that they started working on years ago and they've never released it. And I got access to it recently, but it's literally the same exact thing. It's the same automation that I created. So you're more than welcome to reach out to MyVR and ask them to invite you to theirs as well. So basically what we're saying here is whenever we get a new reservation, and to do this, I'm sort of jumping all over the place. I'm going to actually show you what it looks like whenever you first started a new Zap, since I already have mine created. So this is going to be your dashboard. The first thing you do is just click Make a Zap. And by the way, they have this is free until you get up to a certain number of tasks or automations, and then they start charging you. So once you're invited to the MyVR app, you'll be able to do this. So I'm going to put in MyVR. As you can see, I've been working on it. I've got different versions of it and stuff. So this is what it looks like if you wanted to trigger, a new reservation. Then you could pick MyVR. If you wanted the if thing to be when a new file is dropped in the Dropbox, or the sky's the limit. So then once you do that, you pick the app, and then these are called triggers. So the if whatever is called a trigger. So a new reservation, then do something. If it's a new property is added, then do something else. And then on the other one, talking about MyVR specifically, there's all sorts of triggers. If an inquiry is created, then do this. If a reservation is created, then do this. If a reservation payment is processed, if it's declined, if it failed, if a property is created, so on and so forth. Inquiries on here, reservations. And then you basically choose your trigger. So let's say when a reservation is created, we want something to happen. So we're going to choose that. And we're going to scroll down to the bottom, click next. And then it's going to ask us for our account. These are here because I've already set it up, but you'll just click connect an account. And once you do that, it will actually take you to MyVR's login page. You'll log in and then you'll have it connected. And then from there, you do what I'm about to show you. So we've done that. So here we are. We want the new reservation to be the trigger. I'm going to close this video so that I can see everything. Click continue. And then connect an account if you don't have one connected already. Okay, here is where we're going to get some examples. So if you don't see anything here, you can click on get more samples. You should get something, even if it's like a dummy reservation. Something should pull through. at first, when I first started using Zapier, I would just pick anything, but I learned over time that not every single item that comes through is identical in the way that it's structured. And so I've spent so many hours creating automations only to find out that the calculations in the spreadsheet weren't calculating correctly or whatever. And it's because sometimes something might come through this, the field name might be this, and other times it might be that, and it just changes. So I've learned to go through this process several times with different types of reservations. Specifically with MyVR, I realized that VRBO bookings come through completely differently than the ones booked directly through your website, which is totally different than Airbnb, etc. So once we got the example, this is not the example that I want. Hold on. I want to use the same example that I already have. That I already have in my automation. All right. So then you click next. Now it won't do this to you. Every time I go through one of these steps, it's going to take me to the very end of the process. But normally, this part right here would be covered. From here down would be nothing. It would be white space, and then you just click the plus symbol to do your next thing. And, this comes with time. So at first, you want to take the reservation and you want it to dump directly to a Google Sheet. But if only things were that easy. In this case, I had to do quite a few other steps. So, and you may not even realize these steps that you're going to have to do until after you pull the data in and look at it and realize that the phone number is not formatted correctly or whatever. In this case, I didn't realize that I needed a phone number formatted in a specific way until I added text messaging to the automation. So as soon as I get a reservation, I want a text message to go out, and the text messaging service requires a 11-digit number with a 1, and then the area code, and then the phone number with no dashes, no parentheses or anything, and no plus symbols or anything. So then I had to go back and update it. So we got our reservation. So next we need to clean the phone number, and let me just go ahead and show you. I can show you what the data looks like that comes back. So every time we get a new reservation, this is the data that comes through. So as you can see, we have our reference ID, the number of adults, email address, whether they're a smoker, currency, pretty much everything that's in the reservation. It's all in here. Unfortunately, the way that they show you how much the reservation is very difficult to extract because it's nested inside of these fields. And so that's quite the challenge to figure that out. But as you can see, all the data is here. So the next thing we want to do is we want to take the phone number and we need to clean the phone number and make it consistent, because MyVR does not have the option for us to decide how the phone number is going to come through. All the different booking channels send it through in different ways, in different formats. So to clean a phone number, you can use something called Formatter. It's built in. You just type Formatter and it'll pop up. In this case, we want to use text. And with each one of these, there's options within each one of these as well. So we want it to be text. The first thing says transform. What is it that we want to change? So I don't know why it's saying use a custom value. I don't want to break it. It shouldn't be a custom value. It should just be the damn phone number. Okay, I'm going to skip this because I don't want to mess it up. I remember now. So yeah. So I've actually learned since then that some of these steps are not necessarily necessary because Zapier has a built-in function that actually extracts phone numbers. So because of that, I'm actually going to completely skip over the ones that clean the phone numbers. At first, I was having a step to remove the space in the front, another step to remove the plus sign, another step to remove the right parenthesis and the left parentheses or whatever. So that's actually, none of that is actually necessary. See, find and remove the plus, then this parenthesis, and this one. Actually, it turns out all I had to do, which I did not know at the time that I built this, is do a formatter step. So you choose formatter, and then you're going to do numbers. And you're going to transform the phone number. So you'll look in here, and you will just basically, you can type in phone number. And so basically, we're going to transform that. We're going to change that and make sure that all of them are unique, not unique, but they're all the same format. So the way that you do that is, so we're going to be transforming format phone number. Okay, and then it's asking us where is the phone number at that we want to transform. So for this, you would choose the reservation, and then if you look through all this reservation data, you'll find a phone number, or you can just type in phone at the top, and then boom, there it is. Okay, and then the next one, how do you want it formatted? So if you do the drop down, it's going to show you all sorts of different ways to format it. You can choose any one of those. In this case, I needed this specific format. Then you choose the phone, the country, and then you click next. All right, test was successful. So the phone number that went in was like a +1 parenthesis 502 parenthesis 242 dash whatever, and it extracted all that and gave us something really nice and clean. So then once we do that, the next step is to throw all this data into a Google Sheet. In other words, every single time a new reservation is created or updated, I want it to be downloaded into Google Sheets. So I'll show you that now. So these are all the reservations that we've had. So every single time a reservation is made, it literally writes a new row in this spreadsheet. So here we have the reservation number, the reservation ID, and this, you may not think you need this kind of information, but if you're going to do a lot of automations, you actually do need some of this stuff, because you're going to need something that's unique to each reservation. And the answer in this case is either the reservation ID or the reservation key or the reservation reference. Both of those are unique to each reservation. So you will need, in most cases, you're going to need something unique to throw into the throw into the sheet as well, or to throw into your. I would always pull in something that's unique, regardless. Just make it a best practice. So that's what we're going to do next. So we go back to Zapier. All right. So now if we go back to the top, what Zapier's done is it's said, okay, it's pulled in a new reservation. Actually, what happens is one of two things can happen. You can set it up so that MyVR actually sends Zapier a signal whenever you have a new reservation on your account, or you can set it up so that Zapier will reach out to MyVR and say, hey, is there anything new? And then come back and say yes or no. So we've got that information, and we've cleaned up the phone number. Now we want to add that information to the Google Sheet. So for this, we chose Google Sheets as our action. We want to look up a spreadsheet row. Choose the account for your Google Sheets. By the way, you do have to have the Google Sheets set up before you get this far. So, and what I mean by that is just you need a blank Google Sheet. You can name it whatever you want, but you need the headers. Headers need to be in the top row. Sometimes I don't know exactly what headers I'm going to need. So a lot of times when I first start a new automation, I will just name column A. I'll put a 1, 2, 3, 4, and I just go down the line, and then I'll come back and update them later. So now all we're doing at this point is we're going to match the data that comes from MyVR into the column headers we have for our Google Sheet. So first you just choose the name of the spreadsheet, which as you can tell right here, mine is named MyVR data. So choose MyVR data, and then the name of the tab is reservations. So for the second option, you'll choose reservations. What do I want to look this up by? Whenever you do a lookup like this, it has to be something unique. So as I said, it's either going to be the reference ID or the reservation key. I chose to use the reservation ID, the reference ID specifically because the reservation key is super long. Then it's saying, well, okay, so fine, we're going to look up the reference ID. What value are we going to look up? Well, same value. We're going to look up the reference ID from MyVR. So if you look in MyVR, or of course you can always type reference. Here's the quote reference. We don't want the quote reference ID. They're different. We want this one, reference ID. So we're just saying, all right, Zapier, go to my Google Sheet, look up the column reference ID, take the value of the reference ID from whatever my trigger was, which in this case was new reservation, look it up in the spreadsheet and see if there's already something there. And the reason that's important is because if a reservation comes through and it's changed from booked to canceled, we want to update our spreadsheet. So the way that this happens is it comes through, it looks it up. If it's not there, then it makes the new row. That's a new reservation. But if it's already there, then it changes whatever needs to be changed. So it'll look across the fields and it'll look and it can tell, did the status change? Did the amount of money change? What changed? And it will update it. So you're going to go down through here and do that for each one of these. So reference ID, you're going to choose the reference ID from the MyVR. Same thing for all of these. It's just mapping. I hate doing it because it's like humdrum, repetitive, but it's super easy. Remember I told you that there were some things that I was having trouble with, and specifically I'm talking about the monetary values, the way that they come through from MyVR is they come through in whole cents, not like $1.50 1.50, like $1.50 like 150 pennies. So the value comes through as a whole number with no decimal. So if it was at $510.43, it would literally come through as 503.45 or 503.45 or whatever. So in order to get the real number, you have to divide everything by 100. So you can actually do spreadsheet formulas inside of the fields. So for total rent, you can actually just pull in the total rent from the MyVR, from the trigger, and then you can just surround that with, one parenthesis, put equals sum, and then divide it by 100. And then when it drops into the spreadsheet, it will actually do that formula on that number on the fly in real time. So as you can see right here, all these, like literally these were all like crazy numbers, like $555,000 or whatever. Excuse me, I'm tired. Okay. So that's the only difference. All these are really easy to do. And you can do really complex formulas in here if you want as well. Now these are blank because these are actually being populated by formulas that I did within the Google Sheet itself. But I do plan on moving these over to Zapier. I just haven't taken the time to do it yet. And then we go down to the very bottom, and then there is a verify link that we actually need, but we can't get it just yet because the way, actually, you know what? I'm going to split this up into two parts because this next part completely, split my mind. So basically, let me give you a roadmap. What we're doing here is we're collecting the information, we're collecting the reservation information. Then we want the guest to receive a text message and an email that says, hey, thanks for booking our place. In order to finalize your reservation, please pre-register at this link or whatever. And then they're going to launch that link, and it's going to take them through some questions that we're later going to use to run a background check, a soft background check. We're using a company called Safely Stay to do that. You can choose to not or to do it or not or whatever. And you can ask any kind of questions you want. Like, for example, we have some homes where the HOA requires their license plate number and their make and model of their car. So we were having to manually reach out to people that were booked at this specific property, but now I've built all of this in. And I'm going to get to that. So I will show you the form. But then in the next episode of this little mini series, I'm going to show you how I automated it because I did it in such a way that when the guest clicks on the link, all of their data is actually pre-populated in the form so that they don't have to retype anything. So, and in order to do that, you have to build a link, a really long link that has all the parameters in it. So it'll be a link like googleform.com/ first name / equals blah, blah, blah. Only it's more complicated than that because they don't use actual names of the field. They use numbers and letters, so it makes it more difficult. Then, because there's a 160 character limit on SMS for a lot of carriers, we also have to take that long link and shrink it way down into a short link. So I bought a custom domain. The name of our company is Stay Minty, M-I-N-T-Y. So I bought mnty.me to shorten links. So now I can shorten the link from really, really long to being MNTY, whatever, just really short. So let me show you the form first. So let me finish the roadmap. So basically, after this Zap, there's this automation, there's another automation that takes the data from this spreadsheet, and then it takes all the little bits and pieces of information and it builds a link. And that link, then that link is sent to another service to shorten it, and then it comes back into Zapier with the shortened link. Then we take that link, update the spreadsheet with that link, and then we trigger a email and a text message to go out to the guest. But that shortened link has all those parameters embedded in it so that when they click the link, a lot of the information is filled out for them. And then once that happens, I do my own, computer checks. Basically, it looks to see if the name of the reservation matches the name input in the form and so on. And I'm also looking into so basically the form, let me just show you the form. The form actually asks them to upload a copy of their driver's license and their credit card. And so I'm trying to, the next stage for me will be to make it so that computer learning actually will read and automatically tell if they match or not, which I know it's possible. I just got to figure out how to do it because we're not a huge company with millions and millions of dollars to develop this. So I have to use all sort of piece together my own solution using all these little apps and zaps and stuff like that. All right, so actually I'll just grab one of these links. So here's one of the links. So after we build the link, and I'll just go ahead and show you. Let me just go ahead and show you. So the next zap is build a guest registration and shorten the URL. And some other stuff I'll go over with you guys is I have it set up so that anytime MyVR paused, or anytime any of my listings are paused for any reason on any of the listing sites, it automatically sends me a text message. Because MyVR does not email you automatically if your Airbnb integration stops working. So I set that up, and you can do that in Zapier as well. All right, so the next one, I'm probably gonna end up changing this, but Airbnb does verify their guests, and they do credit card verification. So I really didn't have a need for information from those guests, but it turns out that I really kind of do because I want their real email address, the guest's real email address, and Airbnb does not provide that. So I'm gonna go back and change this, but for now, what I've done is you can also connect to Stripe inside of Zapier. So I've connected to Stripe. I pull in all of the data from the Stripe charge itself. Then I pull in all of the data from the MyVR reservation. And then I compare what's in Stripe for the first name, last name, zip code, and all that, what's in MyVR for all of that, what's in the form, and I sort of make my own judgment of whether it's a sketchy booking or not, kind of. And then I take all of that data, put it together into a link, and then I build a custom link. That's what this step is for. Then I take that link, then I look at the spreadsheet or the rows that I already created, find the right one, and then go and update it with the new link at the end. And then after that, and in a future video, I will go into depth and actually take you through the step-by-steps for these. But the next, I'm just road mapping it for you. The next one would be to send the guest a registration SMS and an email. Then once they answer it, then the next step is to take the data that they answered with and to present it to a user, me or whoever, in an easy to read format so that they can instantly see right in their face. Because we may have a third party do this. We may outsource this to the Philippines where it just pops up in their face and it shows them the front of the credit card, front of the license, back of the credit card, back of the license, and they can instantly see yes or no. If I can't automate that part, then we're probably going to outsource it. So then that's the next step. So here's the form. I totally forgot I was going to use that link. So here's another cool part about this. Every URL that's created, I used you can customize what the link is. And what I did is I made the link mnty.me/the reservation code of the MyVR reservation. I did that on purpose. That way I can continue to use the automation inside of MyVR because I can actually use that in their automation and I can drop that reference code in so I can actually provide that link in MyVR to guests if I want to. So that is the reason I did it that way. All right, so here's what the form looks like. And, you know, this is arbitrary. You could build a form using any number of tools. I was going to take you through this process that we've come up with. And believe it or not, this was actually much longer. This form was much longer before, and we sort of like really pared it down. Thank you for booking your stay with us. In order to finalize your reservation, we need to collect some additional information from you. We will be asking you a series of questions over several screens. The process should take less than 5 minutes and must be completed within 24 hours. If required, we may submit your information to third-party screening and verification services. Okay, so the guest selects fill out form. They put in their email address. And to show you how good this worked, we literally had a booking yesterday. It was last minute. It seemed kind of sketchy. The guest automatically got this. I can see in the back end that they actually pulled it up, looked at it for like 5 minutes, went through the questions, and then they didn't answer it. And then I never heard from them. Their checkout is done, calling passed. And I ended up refunding the credit card because it was fraud. And I guarantee you that was going to be a chargeback. So it's automatically populated the reservation source and the booking number. So all they have to do is hit next. And I even, described that for them. This field should be selected for you and indicates where your reservation was booked. And then, of course, I have some more information up here. So they click next. Please verify the following information and click next to continue. So we've gone ahead and filled in their first name, their last name, their phone number. We don't get their street address through MyVR, and that's something that we need to run the background check. We do a soft background check, run it against like sex offender databases and stuff like that. Which, by the way, we haven't implemented it all the way, so I'll give you an update. But so far, so good. This company called Safely Stay sounds really cool. They actually include damage protection, and they verify all the stuff as well. But they don't verify the credit card part. So you put in your address and or apartment number, your city, state, zip, your date of birth, which we also need for the background check. And because in the future I may want to, send an automated birthday message or something. Then you click next. Name and photo associated with your Google account will be recorded when you upload files and submit this form. That happens automatically. So next step, check-in date is already populated. Arrival time, so I remind them that what check-in time is, but I like to know if they're going to be arriving earlier than that for several reasons. Number one, it's an easy upsell if you charge for early check-in. It's an easy upsell if they're leaving late, and you can charge for that if you want to. Or if you want to do it complimentary, you could go ahead and approve it without them having to even ask, which would be like a cool perk. And then ask, will you be driving? If the person chooses yes, it's going to take them to another screen and ask them for their license plate and all that. If they say no, then it doesn't take them through that screen. Let's say no. Okay, agreement, acknowledgement. We have an obligation to our neighbors, community, and city to ensure our guests follow all rules, ordinances, and laws governing short-term rentals. Please acknowledge your understanding of each policy listed below. I understand that I am fully responsible for the actions of everyone in my group. I understand that smoking is not allowed. If anyone in my group smokes inside the property, I authorize Stay Minty to charge my credit card any applicable fees. That's the other cool thing about this is that since you're requiring a copy of their credit card, even if they booked, it depends on how you have it set up. If you don't have MyVR set up for full integration, then you never get their payment information. So this would be good for incidentals. You could store their credit card information for that. Pet policy. I understand that pets are not allowed. If anyone in my group brings a pet, I need to correct that. A pet inside the property, I authorize Stay Minty to charge my credit card any applicable fees. And then we go on with an events policy, a decorations policy, a good neighbors policy, and an eviction policy. And then they click next. This is the final step in the process and must be completed to finalize your booking. If you have any trouble uploading your identification and credit card, you may also email it to hello@stayminty.com. Be sure to provide your name and booking number information in the subject line. Front of your driver's license, front of your credit card, and back of your card. So they have to upload that. Just throw anything in here just so I can get through. Well, actually, it's not going to do anything special. So anyway, once they do that and they click submit, then the data is then written to another Google Sheet, and I will show you what that looks like. So that's the information is saved into this spreadsheet. So I did this earlier. So here's the information. So you got your timestamp. Basically, everything that came, that was already entered or the guest entered will be in here. And you can, at this point, you can do whatever you want to with it. So it automatically saves the copies of their driver's license in Google Drive. I do have to check on whatever it's called, something compliance, because I know that you're not supposed to store credit card information. So I'm not sure if it counts if it's in an image file. So I think maybe once we verify this, I think we have to destroy the files immediately or something. I need to check on that. And this is just now being implemented. So we still have time to do that. But this will give you, I think that, this will do several things. You can, depending on their check-in time, you can have this automatically trigger an upgrade path for someone to offer them an upgrade, or to automatically offer them an upgrade. If you could also ask what the purpose of their travel is, which I should have done. I meant to actually, because if they're here for a certain kind of party that you don't want, then that could be a red flag. Or it could be an upsell also. If they're here for an anniversary, you could offer to $100 to throw some streamers up or whatever. And you could also use this as leverage later on. If they break the rules, then you have proof that they signed for it, because digital acknowledgments do stand up in court. Well, I'm not a lawyer, so it depends on your jurisdiction, but in ours it does. Digital acknowledgments do stand up as a binding thing in Nashville, basically. And then the other big piece of this is this gives me all the information that I need to run a quick background check, and it happens really fast. I actually have not implemented that part yet. We'll be working on that this week on Friday, actually. So the next step is actually to take this data. I just realized I use the word actually a lot. To take this data, push it out to Safely Stay, and then that's one part of it. The second part of it is to push it to somebody to verify that the IDs match, or if they don't match, and take action on that if they don't, like canceling the reservation or whatever, or calling the guest. And then that at some point will either be automated by another service, like there's one called Doc Parser that may work, where it can actually read it can read with OCR, it can read images and PDF files, this will probably end up being outsourced to the Philippines. They have companies over there that employ people to do stuff like this, basically, and it's really, really inexpensive. So that's what you can do with all of that information. There's some other parts of this that I would like to automate, but there are some roadblocks. For example, I would like to take the email address that I collect, as well as some of the data, and actually use it inside of MyVR in the custom fields. So if I go to MyVR, I have some fields set up, and unfortunately, even though I know how to post to their API and programmatically update data, but they don't allow some objects to be updated. Case in point, they don't allow reservations to be updated. I mean, you can update them inside by going to MyVR, but as far as programmatically doing it through their API, they don't allow it, which is insane. Here's the reservation that I canceled actually because of fraud. So I go into a reservation. I would like to have that data that I collected pushed into the address field, the phone field, the email address field. And then I would like for my custom stuff down here to be populated: car, make, and model, car tags, driver's license, and fraud check. And I did this on purpose because I didn't realize that I wasn't going to be able to write to this. So at first I was going to have this come back and, be pushed in here, fraud, whether it was passed or not, which could then trigger other things, but I haven't got that far yet. So, gosh, I'm out of breath. My mouth is dry. I'm a little bit nervous, talking about this. I'm not nervous to talk about it, but I don't know. I've done tons of videos, personal videos. I have several hundred of them. I was doing them every single day. And at first I was super nervous, and then it became second nature. But this type of recording is totally different because, I'm trying to subconsciously remember to slow down my speech, to slow down my mouse movements and my clicks so that you can see exactly what I'm doing, because I'm sort of all over the place. It's hard to remember to do that. So I'm sure these videos will get better over time. I hope you found value in this. If you have any questions, please reach out to me, and I will be posting a second part to this series in the next couple of weeks. It is almost Christmas time, so happy holidays to you. And until next time, enjoy yourself.